Hey everyone, it's only been 2 years since we replaced our Jura, which has lasted over 10 years of trouble-free service. Sadly, after only 2 years, we get our first unexpected notification on startup. When you see this, 3 things come to mind. Number 1, it's going to be expensive. Number 2, you're not having coffee today. And number 3, you're angry because a machine costing over $3,000 broke only after 2 years. But this error too could be an easy fix, so let's give it a shot. I'll start by removing all detachable components from the machine, including the milk frother. I stopped to note the setting of the bean grinder because I'm going to need that for later. The tray, which my wife has already cleaned out, so it's nice and shiny. The water container. Of course, I'm going to unplug the machine, safety first. Then the bean cover. And I'll try and extract as many beans as possible and save it from the hopper. I believe that's as much as I'm going to get. I've set up a work area for this project with ample room on all sides. We'll place the machine into position. Now we'll discuss the parameters and procedures for this repair, which most anybody can do. I'll use the step-by-step tape and marker method, which I've done in other videos to keep everything in order. I've used this method on this channel to repair other Jura coffee machines. I've also used it on this channel for entire washing machine disassemblies. The feedback has been positive. Every screw that I turn will be a T15 Torx unless otherwise specified. Our sole focus here is to disassemble the machine, troubleshoot the problem, repair it, and reassemble the machine. That's it. Beginning our disassembly process with screw number 1, I'll remove it now. It is found on the bottom front right corner. I'll then pull a small strip of masking tape, wrap the screw up within the tape, leaving a buddy tab, and then annotate it with the marker as number 1. I then toss it into the bin. The second screw is right in front of the bean hopper. I remove that now, and mark that as 2. The third screw is found on top under the flap by this absolutely terrible wireless dongle connector, and I'm going to mark that as 3. The fourth screw is under the flap on the front of the machine, up top. That'll be number 4. The next 2 screws are the oval screws requiring this special tool which you can purchase on Amazon, link provided below. And we can see those 2 screws on the bottom rear of the machine. My tool's kind of annoying because it doesn't fit in the socket. I'll provide a link for a better tool below, but I'll get by with this one, loosening both screws. I'll then remove that keychain holder. At that point, with this tool, I was able to spin the screws out one at a time with my fingers. And we can see it's just a weird shaped oval head screw. I mark it as 5. Take out the one on the right and mark that as number 6. Lifting upward, the side with the flap is removed, comes right off with no issues. There's no connectors on it. I place a piece of tape over the flap to secure everything together and mark that as 7. The cover on the other side is pushed back to release, and once it is released, be careful not to pull it away, as the power button needs to be rotated clockwise 90 degrees to release it from the housing. The power button could then be gently left to hang, and the cover can be put off to the side. We'll mark that cover as 8. And we can see the notches on the first side, how you would lift up to release. Also looking at the back of the first side, just to give you an idea. And on the other side, how you would push back to release, giving the shape of those notches. Looking a little dirty there too from all the bean dust. So we're going to take a moment right now just to vacuum all this out before we continue. In here as well, before things get too messy. It's evident that a surprising number of beans get behind the seal to places that they shouldn't be. Now we can continue. This screw is on the front just over the milk frother. We'll remove this now and mark this one as 9. This video is only focused on repair and not maintenance. Right here is our brew group. We're not going to be going into this. If you want to see the brew group rebuilt and cleaned, click the link in the top right corner. We've only removed as much as we need to gain access to the repair job only, like this clip. I could have removed this piece in the beginning, but I'll remove it now. But since I'm removing it now, I'll tape it shut and mark this one as 10. And just in the middle at that rear flap, we see another screw, which I'll remove now. And that one we're going to mark as 11. I'll gently push down on this tab and then grab from the front, lifting up and off, and make a complete mess because I forgot to do something. And this cover is now removed. Taping the flap shut, I'll mark this piece as 12. I'll point out after making my mess that this screw should have been removed first. In doing so, once the screw is removed, it allows this plastic plate to come off. And once it's removed, the rest of the beans can be vacuumed out. So I'll take this plate, put the screw through it, tape everything together, and I'm going to mark this as 12A. This being completely emptied and vacuumed before the top was removed would have stopped that mess from happening. But it's too late for me now, so now I have to clean everything up. I started collecting some of this by hand and realized I'm just going to move over to the vacuum cleaner and get all of this. It's worth noting that this piece right here that sets the bean coarseness falls right out. The first thing you should do when you open the cover is mark its position against the gear it touches. Mine is on video, I know where it was. If not, it's trial and error since he already recorded where the switch position was. I've got most of it, but there's still some work to do. I'm going to grab a pick to get these beans that are caught down here. And there's kind of a lesson here when you think how much extra work is involved by skipping one simple step. Okay, this portion is all cleaned up. We're good now. I'll just place this right back in. However, where the pre-ground coffee goes, where the coffee dumps, we can see a whole bunch of beans are now stuck down there, and that's not good. So I took a 1/4 inch length of hose and stuck it in my vacuum cleaner hose, and I'm going to suck out everything from there till that area is clean. Everything is now perfectly cleaned up. A lot of extra work because I simply forgot to remove the grill before I vacuumed out the beans before removing the top cover. Let's move on. This is the thermal block, our area of concern. We're almost done taking things apart. The bolt inside here uses a size 4 hex. I've set up one on another driver for this purpose just to turn this bolt out. I'll label that bolt 13. Now I'll carefully pull that plastic cover off of the thermal block and label it 14. The thermal block is now free, only held by hoses and cables. So I'll remove the spring washer from the middle, and I'll label this 15. There's a plastic piece up here I know I'm going to bump into, so I'm going to remove it, and label that one 16. Finally, our last component to disassemble, the back cover. We see we have 2 screws here holding it on. I'll remove those now. They don't come out easy, they just kind of come off with the cover. So I'll collect the cover and the screws that fell, and those screws will be marked 17 and 18. We've now reached the troubleshooting and repair portion of the project. Behind this thermal block is a thermistor connected by this cable right here. We're going to disconnect the connector now. The male end will make it convenient for troubleshooting. Pulling the block out of the case, we can see where the thermistor is bolted onto the block, and as the block temperature changes, the resistance of the thermistor changes with it. Coming off the brown wire, we also have a thermal block fuse, and off the blue wire behind it, an overtemp fuse. They're secured to this post here by a screw where ground is tied to the middle. These 2 fuses here we're going to check for continuity. We're going to start with the thermistor by setting a standard multimeter over the resistance. And while I don't know the exact values to expect, I know it shouldn't be open or shorted. Carefully connecting my probes to the 2 pins without touching the pins with my fingers, and immediately I'm surprised because it is in fact open. I found that if I wiggled the wire just right, I did get a reading of 102 kiloohms. I don't know if that's correct, but it's something. I wiggle it again, and we can see that it's kind of shady going in and out. And then I wiggle it again, and it's gone. It's open again. And I was able to do this a couple more times, but it's definitely not a stable connection. This right here speaks to the primary problem that will cause an error too. Several attempts were made at jostling the wire while I held the pins on, moving it back and forth, attempting to see some sort of signal, but at some point it just stopped working completely. So I'll be using a T20 and turning that screw out on the block to remove the sensor. Then placing the screw right back in the block and just screwing it down a couple of turns so I don't lose it. Just out of curiosity to see if I could get this thing running for testing, I sliced the wire halfway down the middle and tested it, but still no continuity. Then one more time, slicing it right at the sensor, and still it's an open. It obviously broke in the sensor. There's no continuity. So this bad boy is going to get replaced. We'll be inspecting the continuity across these two fuses next. But before I get back here, I want to vacuum up some of this mess. From that one mistake I made on step 12, you can see the beans just get everywhere. We can see where the cables run towards the back. We're going to come across the other side where it comes out of the heater, right over here and here. And we're just going to measure them for continuity, just by following them back to see where they plug in into the rear circuit board of the coffee machine. So I'll just put one side of my ohm meter on blue, and the other side of the blue connector coming off the thermal block, which I realize is off camera, but there's only two connections on the thermal block. I got 425 ohms, so we're good through the fuse. So I'll make my way to the brown wire and test the brown wire on the thermal block. And that's 426 ohms, so these fuses are good. Finally, I'll test the leads across the thermal block, expecting real low resistance. I want to know what's in my cables, and I'm seeing 4 ohms. I'll subtract 4 ohms from that value. I'm going to go from brown to blue, and I'm seeing 14, so it's 10 ohms of resistance across the thermal block. It's not open and not shorted, so it's probably good. Tested the thermistor, which turned out to be bad. Tested across the fuses, which turned out to be good. The leads as well were good. You could also make sure there's no obstruction in the unit by removing these water hoses here and pushing water or air through it. I'm not actually going to go and do this. We already found the problem with this unit, and the other tests were easy to accomplish, but taking the whole system apart, because maybe there was calc that built up within this unit, is something to think about if you haven't found your problem yet. 2 days later, my parts have arrived. Here we have the thermistor. It comes with the extension cable. We're not going to need that. Also parts from my machine maintenance video. So I'll disconnect that extension and place it off to the side. And I want to get a measurement of this new working thermistor room temperature because nobody provides this info. Sure enough, we're seeing about 110K, which stands to reason because a couple days ago on the intermittent thermistor, we've seen about 102 given temperature fluctuation. Sounds about right. I've stored the thermistor screw in the thermal block. I'll remove that now. Placing the screw and washer in the new thermistor, I'll tighten it back down just a couple of turns to get the threads in. Because once it's in a couple turns, I want to rotate the thermistor so it sits between those two raised pieces of aluminum that'll hold it in the proper position. Holding it then with my thumb, I'll continue to tighten down the screw until the thermistor is fully seated, and I'll snug it down good. Then I'll raise the entire thermal block back up into its original position within the housing. There's a cutout on the bottom left that the water hose goes through. I'll seat that now. And then a lower cut where the 3 cables go in, the green, the brown, and the blue. And then a higher cut, which is meant for the thermistor, which I'll address in just a minute. Once those 3 larger cables are in, and everything's fully seated, I'll come back around and put the thermistor cable through that top cutout and rotate it around the top. There's also a cable hold right here that I'll push it into. We'll take a closer look now and make sure everything is in place. We see all the cables addressed and seated properly. And I'm going to temporarily put a piece of tape over this just so nothing falls out now that everything is dressed as I go around back to put the rear cover on. This covers with screws 17 and 18. I'll place a tape roll under the back to raise it and make this portion easier. The enlarged holes of this cover act as alignment holes as we see here. The bottom portion just seats in a position like so. The top is then gently pressed in and aligned to the holes, at which point we'll take out screws 17 and 18 and use them to fasten the rear cover. I've had to stop both of them with my fingers and just the bit because the socket can't fit in the deep well hole. Not really a problem. Move on to the next one using the same method. And then with my finger holding the bit, I was able to use just the end of the socket to be able to turn it and snug the screw into position. Again, same exact procedure on the other side. (18 and 17) completed. The tape can now be removed from the rear, and the temporary piece of tape can now be removed. At this point, I'll connect that small connector for the thermistor, and make sure that all these cables are properly seated within this track right here. Everything looks good on the thermistor cable. Everything's in position. We'll install part labeled 16 now. It just lays right over and seats in a position. Number 16 is done. 15 will be the washer for the thermal block, which I'll remove from the tape, and we can see that it is contoured in a certain way such that it bows outward just like this, and outward in the bow will point forward towards me. Again, using the tape to lift the machine will make this step easier. Seating the block all the way in, I'll put the washer in so the bow of the washer again points towards me outward, at which point we'll take the cover labeled 14 and place it over. Nothing should be obstructed, nothing should be impinged, it should just seat right over everything, just like that. I take extra time here to make sure that all the cables are absolutely in the right position. From there, I'll grab bolt 13. This is our hex bolt. And I'll tighten it down, bringing everything together. Remember, we're also tightening against that spring washer. We don't need to destroy it, but snug it down. Now I can pull the tape out. And we finish 15, 14, and 13. I now have enough together to test this thermal block to see if my repair worked. So I plugged in the machine, and I'm going to hit the power button. We'll see what happens. And already the indication is looking good. And it looks like we've cleared our problem. We need to only unplug it and complete the assembly. This brings us to the top cover, number 12. Very important, of course, to know the position of this piece. It's a good idea to put a mark here when the cover's removed. I have my video to tell me where it was. And then make sure all the cables are laying correctly within the guide so none of them gets crimped upon reassembly. The switch should be in the previously recorded position. And then the cover is gently laid down. Make sure that this lip is under the cover and just negotiate it so that switch fits in the proper place, and everything should just fall into place really easy without any resistance, like so. That's it for number 12. We have to put this cage back on over here, and that was auxiliary 12A. I'll set it back into position. A plastic piece centers it on the bottom, and the top screw hole sets the top. Then I'll carefully insert the screw up top, remembering that if I drop it and it falls in, I have to open up everything to get it out of the grinder. Once the screw is all the way in, I'll gently snug it down, and that completes 12A. Right here in the middle rear of the top is our next step. Number 11 will be that screw, which we will carefully install, or that will end up all the way in the bottom. Everything would need to be opened back up so it could be fished out of the brew group. And that's it for 11. 10 is the pre-ground tube. Really easy step. We drop it right in, and we're done. And that's it for 10. We have a screw up top, up front near the frother. That's going to be number 9. Same procedure, turned it in, and then gently snug, and that's it. 9 is done. For the next step, we'll place tape under the button side to raise the device. Installing the button side panel marked as 8. We'll first install the power button into the panel, and then rotate it 90 degrees to lock it into position. The panel will be brought into position just slightly back from its final position, and once it's in place and all of those little connectors fit into place, right here it's easily moved forward and locked in, just like that. If the panel was inserted correctly, we could see that all of the contours should be flush, nothing should be bowed out, everything should be lined up as we see coming around the back, as well as along the front. It should be evenly spaced, and across the bottom as well. We're skipping to number 6 right quick, using our special tool for installation, and I'm putting that special screw here on the bottom of the panel, which we've just installed, a couple of turns with my finger, and then I'll use that special tool to twist it all the way in as far as I could go. And because I have the keychain version, I then come back and put the keychain on just to snug it down, completing that panel. Now I could raise the machine up and pull the tape roll out from under. Next will be the other side cover, which is denoted with the number 7. Again, we'll use the tape to raise that side, making this step easier. This side pushes down into position, and there are a lot of clips on this side, so it's a little tricky. Lining it up initially, you got to get it just right, and it wasn't easy, not even for me. It took a lot of work and retries before I felt it seat just perfectly, and I could push it down into position. I removed my top flap to install this only because it just got in the way, and I slid it right back on. It locked in, so no big deal, just a matter of personal preference. The special screw will now be installed, and this is going to be screw number 5. Again, with the tool I have to start it with my finger a couple of turns till it stays in, and then I use the tool to spin it around to get it about as far as I could possibly get it, at which point I put the keychain back on so I'm able to just snug it down gently. And that's it for the side cover. So I'll pull out my roll of tape, and we finish cover 8, cover 7, screw 6, and screw 5. Lifting the flap up front, we see this hole here. We'll put in the screw, which will be number 4. Again, we'll carefully install the screw to full seat, and then just very lightly give it a little twist. And that's it for number 4. The next screw will be by the useless wireless module. That's number 3. Same procedure again, install to full seat, followed by a very light twist, and that's it. Toss number 3 in the bin. Lowering the flap, we see a screw goes here just in front of the bean hopper, and that'll be number 2. And like all the others, same procedure. That's it for 2. Again, using the tape roll, the front of the machine is raised, and we'll be installing our final screw here, number 1. With that, the rebuild portion is now completed, and if you have all these pieces of tape in the bin, you know that everything went back in the right location. So I'll remove the tape for the last time from under the machine, and get the machine back into the kitchen to put the remaining parts back on. We'll install the water reservoir, the milk frother, the bean cover, and the bottom tray. We're now fully assembled and ready to run it to make sure everything is okay. It's time for a smoke test. So we'll add beans and water, and we'll fire it up and see that it comes up to the main menu. Heating is good. It goes to rinsing, so we got past our error. And ultimately, we end at the main menu. Now it's coffee time. So just to recap, 1 thermistor and the ordered operation of repair is all it took to get this machine back running again. I hope you found this video enjoyable, entertaining, and informative. Do me a favor, hit that like button down below, helps me out a lot when you do, and hit that subscribe button to be informed of more videos like this when they come out. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Would you like to reply?